You know that feeling, right? You're in a deep, complex conversation with an AI, and suddenly, poof, it completely forgets the core of what you were talking about just minutes earlier. Even the most powerful AI models today can feel like they have the memory of a goldfish. So what's going on? Why do these incredibly brilliant systems struggle so much with long-term memory and focus? Well, let's get into this fascinating problem and a really clever potential solution.
Okay, so to understand the problem, you have to look at how we've been building AI memory so far. On one side, you have transformers, right? The powerhouse architecture behind things like GPT. They're amazing, but they are fundamentally amnesiacs. Every single time you interact with them, they're basically starting from scratch. Then, on the other side, you've got older models like RNNs. Now, they try to keep a running memory, but it's like a game of telephone. With every single update, the memory gets a little more distorted, a little more smeared, until it's just garbled. So neither one really nails it.
And this is what we end up with. A lucid goldfish. It's such a perfect description, isn't it? It has access to this vast, incredible ocean of knowledge. It can have these stunning flashes of brilliance, but it just can't hold on to a single coherent thread of thought or intent over time. It's trapped in this eternal present, constantly having to refigure out the context of what's happening.
So what is going on here? For a while, we all thought the solution was pretty simple. Just give the AI a bigger and bigger context window. Just let it see more of the past, right? But it turns out just having access to more data, more history, it doesn't actually fix the core problem of maintaining focus.
And this quote, this gets right to the heart of the whole misunderstanding. See, we've been so focused on giving the AI a bigger rearview mirror, but we never taught it how to tell the difference between an important landmark and just a treat that it passed. It sees everything, but it has no idea what actually matters over the long haul. So here's the real problem. It's not about how much of the past we see. It's that we've been modeling time as this one single flat highway. And on this highway, every new piece of information, no matter how trivial, has the power to cause a massive traffic jam. The little moment-to-moment noise can completely overwrite the deep, important context simply because it's the newest car on the road. This one question just changes the entire game. Instead of asking, how can we remember more stuff, we start asking, what's important enough that we need to protect it from changing? What information needs to have some inertia? And that reframes the whole problem. It's not about capacity anymore, it's about persistence and stability. And this total reframing of the problem, well, it leads to a completely radical new idea. A new architecture designed from the ground up to respect the fact that some ideas need to stick around way longer than others. It's called ChronoLadder, and the core idea is actually pretty simple, but it's also profound. It says, hey, let's stop pretending that one single memory pipe can handle everything. In our own minds, different kinds of information have different lifespans, right? A phone number you need for 30 seconds versus a core belief you've had for years. ChronoLadder builds a structure to handle all those different timescales at the same time.
So how does this thing actually work? Well, the whole architecture is built around this concept of semantic horizons. Think of it as different layers of memory, where each layer is moving at its own natural speed. Let's break down what that actually looks like.
Just imagine an actual ladder. The very bottom rung, that's our zero. It's like an instant scratch pad for the thought you're having right this second. It gets erased almost immediately. Now climb up one rung. That's memory that lasts for a few seconds, like what you need to summarize a sentence. Go up higher, and you've got context that lasts for minutes, like tracking the rules of a game you're playing. And way up at the top, you have this distilled core wisdom that sticks around for hours or maybe even longer.
And here is the absolute genius of the whole system. It's built on a principle called semantic inertia. All that means is that the system is specifically designed to be difficult, computationally expensive, to change the higher, slower rungs of that ladder. It protects your long-term goals, your core understanding from getting derailed by every tiny little distraction that pops up.
Okay, but what stops this whole elegant ladder structure from just collapsing into the same old smeared memory mess? Well, you have to engineer it with really strict rules. You can think of them as architectural firewalls, and there are 4 key parts that make this whole thing work.
First up, you have to isolate the capacity. This means absolutely no shared latent soup. I love that term. Basically, each rung on the ladder gets its own dedicated resources, its own set of parameters. And this is so crucial because it stops all that fast-moving, noisy information from the bottom rungs from bleeding into and corrupting the slow, stable, important context at the top.
And second, and this is so important, you build literal gradient firewalls. This is an architectural wall that stops the constant chatter of the present moment. All those training signals from directly messing with your long-term memory on every single step. It's kind of like soundproofing the library from the noisy cafe right next door.
So you can really see how this all comes back to that huge, fundamental shift in thinking. We're moving away from this brute force approach of let's just see more history and toward a much smarter, more structured approach of figuring out what parts of that history are actually worth the effort of holding on to.
Now, all of this sounds amazing in theory, right? But if it actually works, what's the payoff? What do we get? And just as important, what are the limitations? What do we need to be realistic about?
The promise here is, well, it's huge. We could finally get AI agents that can actually hold the thread of a long conversation or a complex task. They'd feel more coherent, more persistent, more like a real partner. It could even be way more efficient because you wouldn't have to stuff the entire chat history into the prompt every single time. It might even make them tougher to trick with prompt hacking because that core context is safely tucked away and protected.
But, and this is a big but, we have to be really clear about the reality check here. ChronoLadder is a system for memory persistence. It is not for learning new things. It doesn't give an AI the ability to adapt or develop muscle memory for a new skill on the fly. For any brand new task, it's still going to have that classic first day on the job syndrome. This is not a silver bullet for the grand challenge of continuous learning.
So the big takeaway is this. Solving memory and solving learning are two totally different problems. They're related for sure, but they're not the same. This architecture is a massive conceptual leap forward for making AIs that are coherent and stateful, but you'd still need totally different systems to handle true learning and skill acquisition.
And this quote just perfectly captures the entire philosophy here. What we usually write off as random noise or an AI just getting confused, it might not be random at all. It might just be meaningful information that's being processed at the wrong speed. It's semantic ambiguity at the wrong timescale. And by finally building a system that respects the natural cadence of meaning, we might just be able to turn all that noise back into a clear, coherent, and incredibly powerful signal.